me this morning, Mr. Whittles.
Mr. Mboweni.
We haven't seen you in a while.
Yes, good to be back, as always.
Yeah, no, it's always good to wake up every once in a while.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
Sandile kaNqose.
Coffee today, nice.
Good morning, Mhlegas. Let's begin, gentlemen. The front page of the Star, Mr. Whittles. All eyes on Mboweni. And the sub-headline there, it's in inverted commas, cry of excluded to add to the pressure on Finance Minister to deliver a credible budget speech that will tackle all woes of the country.
Yeah,
Major focus?
Yeah, look, the jobs will have to be the major focus, trying to generate some income in the economy to create these jobs with record unemployment, and considering the state of the SOEs, looming retrenchments across many industries. It doesn't look good for SA at the moment, for the average worker in SA. It doesn't look like many workers will be getting increases this year as well if you look at the state of the economy. But the cry of the excluded is an interesting coalition made up of SAFTU, AMKU and the Unemployed People's Movement, who've recently started holding forums with groups of unemployed people, and job seekers have become disillusioned, and they're trying to add to the pressure on the finance minister by submitting some of their demands, which they believe
So this is the grouping that we expect to march outside Parliament today, and they're marching against what they're saying are austerity measures that are going to basically put people under extreme poverty.
Indeed, and they've presented their own proposals for what they believe the finance minister should include in the budget, which is some relief through such things such as the basic income grant. That was at the forum they held yesterday. But one has to wonder what impact groups like these make, particularly when they organize themselves formally outside of the public participation process for the national budget and then march to the parliament while the budget is being delivered, and particularly at the late stage on the day of the budget.
Sandile kaNqose, the interesting comments in this article on the front page of the Star quotes COSATU. Now, COSATU is not only unhappy with the finance minister. In fact, for them, they would actually have him redeployed elsewhere. But in the main, the focus here is that they're saying the president, or rather the finance minister, should talk to the SONA speech of the president. So basically give meat to what the president has already said in Parliament.
You're speaking about the COSATU spokesperson, Sizwe Pamela. Just in terms of, we can't have another SONA or something, a speech that's similar to SONA. It has to speak to SONA. It has to be the financial voice of SONA. But in terms of real terms, what people are speaking about jobs. You know, you've got all these Vision 2020, Vision 2030, what's going to happen 10 years down the line. We're going to have 3 million jobs in 10 years. People want to know what's going to happen next week. What is going to happen next month? Am I going to have a consistent electricity supply? Will my job still be secured? You've got declining tax revenues. You've got money being thrown at all manner of SOEs. I mean, you're actually in trouble of losing your investment grade in terms of a country. So these are the things people want to know. People are not necessarily concerned right now about 10 years from now. What's happening this month? What's happening next month, this year?
It's interesting that he brings up the vision 10 years from now, because you were covering the State of the Province address in Gauteng yesterday, Govan, and the sub-headline on the front page of the Star talks about future of e-tolls to be known soon. The Premier, much of his focus is we're looking what is going to happen, or we're planning for the decade that begins now. It sort of talks directly to what Sandile is talking about, that people are not interested in what's going to happen 10 years from now. It's about the here and now. E-tolls?
How many times have we seen that headline that we'll know the future of e-tolls soon? Well, the Premier says an announcement is imminent now, and it'll come from the President.
It's been imminent.
It's been imminent for a while, but he says the President has taken a decision, and an announcement will be made, and the Chief Whip of the ANC in Gauteng hinting yesterday to ENCA that they believe their proposal to fund the upgrades alternatively without passing a tax on to the motorists may have passed the muster, and they're feeling quite confident ahead of that.
Do you know why I'm inclined to believe him this time? The contract of the company I think it's the e-toll concession that was collecting the monies from e-toll people who are not necessarily paying. That contract has not been renewed. So would that possibly give us a hint that indeed e-tolls are extinct?
Maybe that they found another way to collect the revenue, or that they've actually just found a whole bunch of cash that they plan to throw into the debt. Remember, this debt is in the billions, Oli, and it's supposed to be serviced over 30 years, and because it's not being serviced at the rate at which it's supposed to, it's putting extra pressure on Sanral, which can't go out there and borrow money to upgrade other roads in the country. Well, you may be confident, but just on Sandile's point, you know, many opposition parties saying the same thing, that David Makura is living in a fantasy world. First of all, saying it's quite presumptuous of him to set out a plan for the next 10 years when he's not sure.
He spoke about 10 growth sectors.
10 growth sectors.
Which ones interested you the most?
For me, I mean, the biggest growth sector is the infrastructure spend. They're putting 60 billion rand on the table for the next 10 years, saying they're willing to put out bulk infrastructure, you know, putting in the pipes, getting the electricity to the areas like Lanseria and the Vaal, so that these big complexes can...
Have they budgeted for the infrastructure mafia that's interrupting all this?
Interestingly enough, David Makura now saying that he's tired of contractors giving the state a government price, which is inflated. He made the example of if you're selling a pencil to the government, you buy it for 1 rand, then you sell it to the government for 5 rand just because it's the government. Saying that he wants to crack down on this. Look, Salim Samanga from the DA saying, we've been saying this since 2010. What have you been doing? So a lot of MPs in Gauteng not happy with it.
You need to be a bit more optimistic. Okay. Mr. kaNqose, what's happening in the sports pages?
Just in terms of those growth sectors, another interesting one is the industrialization of cannabis. I thought that was very interesting. But just on the sports...
Trust you to pick up on that.
We're going with the Witness sports page, guards for the Australian side. That's the huge headline there. A subtext says, maximum security to be in operation when Australia face SA in Newlands. Now, this is the 30-20 international between the two sides. It's the decider. The series is evenly balanced, takes place tonight. It's squared at 1-1, and South Africa need to get in and win this to bring some sort of respect, sprinkle some sort of respect on their collective name. And then the picture here has, of course, Dave Warner and Steve Smith. Now, these are the two villains from 2 years ago, March 2 years ago in Newlands, Sandpaper Gate, as it's been known now, where the Australians cheated and they brought out pieces of sandpaper and were basically scuffing the ball to get some sort of advantage against the Proteas in that test match. They were subsequently banned for a year apiece. Warner can't ever captain Australia in any format. Steve Smith himself has been banned from a leadership role for a year, and Cameron Bancroft was out for 9 months.
Can I challenge you on one thing?
What?
Since we started this week, Mr. Whittles, I'm telling on him.
Okay.
We haven't heard any other sports story except cricket. I challenge you to talk to us about anything else besides cricket tomorrow.
Yeah, look, the Proteas in the running for a win, so you've got to put the focus on them, give the boys a boost.
Okay, fair enough.
Plus, I mean,
fair enough.
The ABSA Premiership is continuously ongoing, so we will be speaking about that.
Okay, all right. The technical director says, course. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We're done with the coffee chat, and still to come.